Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cycle Breaker Summit. I'm Taylor Damiani, your summit host and creator of Reclaim You, Healing as Adult Children of Narcissistic Parents. And I am thrilled to welcome back Evelyn Vieira. Evelyn is a childhood trauma survivor and a trauma support specialist who is dedicated to helping parents heal their own wounds and break dysfunctional cycles. She has over 20 years of experience as a parent coach, a positive discipline educator, and a foster child advocate. Welcome, Evelyn. Good to have you
Thank
back.
you. Thank you so much, Taylor. I'm excited to be here.
I am too, and I'm really excited for your topic, which is all about playfulness, playful parenting for your children, for your inner child. So let's dive right in. How
Perfect.
can we be more playful in our healing journey?
Okay, so for most of us, especially if we've grown up in dysfunction and had maybe a narcissistic parent, a lot of us did not have the opportunity to truly be children
Mm,
because we were scolded and shamed for thinking outside the box and for being playful a lot of the time. And so when we're raised in that environment, we really learn to kind of shove all of that playfulness down and to be
mm,
really productive and to be doers and go-getters and those things. And so a lot of the time when we've grown up that way, we are so disconnected from playfulness and creativity, our imagination. And then
mm,
when we have kids, we're still a lot of the time stuck in that like just really negative cycle of my child has to behave this way and they have to do what I say and da 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 da. And we forget how incredibly powerful it is to be playful. And I'll tell you
mm.
right now and tell all of the listeners right now that no matter what you might be experiencing with your children, just under the surface is a playful child who wants to connect with you. So
Mm.
even in the midst of defiance, even in the midst of screaming, yelling, backtalk, there is a very small like gap between that and playfulness and ease. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm super excited about that.
I am really excited too. So, what does it mean to be playful? How do you define that?
It's been quite a journey because I used to be extremely strict and very rigid in my thinking. I was all about rules. I
Wow.
thought my job was to make my kids follow the rules. And if they followed the rules well, I was doing a great job. If they didn't follow the
Mm.
rules, I was doing a horrible job. So there was this, roller coaster, emotional roller coaster I was on a daily basis attached to my kids' behavior. And when we're stuck in that, there's no fluidity. There's no room for creativity because we're just,
Mm.
well, stuck in a box like this. I have a lot of props today to show you all,
I love
but
it.
we're stuck in this box and we
Yeah.
don't realize that we're stuck in a box. All
Yeah.
we know is that we have these ideas of what it's supposed to be like up here. And
Yes.
when it doesn't manifest out here, we get really frustrated internally. And then there's a lot of
Mm.
anxiety around all of that. So when I
Yeah.
talk about playfulness, I talk about breaking out of that box, like really, making the lid pop off and really expanding who we are. And when we do
Mm.
this as parents, whether you have children or not, whether, if you're on any kind of healing journey, if you've experienced trauma, I feel like we can get in touch with our true selves because so much of my healing, I've been able to get in touch with my inner children. I believe we have multiple inner children. And
Mm.
when we get in touch with our inner children and we start to be playful with them and we let go of that rigidity and that judgment and that criticism,
Yeah.
so much healing can happen in a short amount of time because we're able to really, rather than like shrink down, which is what we were trained to do as children, we learn to expand who we are and think outside the
Mm.
box. And we're able to be a lot more creative and imaginative and just overall playful. And I have many examples to give if you are interested in what
Please
that looks
do.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. Give us some.
Okay, so I'll tell a story. I don't think I told this story last time, but I have a process that I help parents go through, and it's a three-step formula. It's very simple. But the first step, if they want to be more playful and imaginative, is
Mm-hmm.
we need to offer empathy to our kids. And
Mm.
oftentimes, that's not even a part of how we approach parenting, because it's
Mm.
like, you need to do what I say, you need to obey me.
Yeah.
But if we offer empathy and actually put ourselves in their shoes, that gives us a new perspective of what they might be going through. So I'll explain these three things, and then I'll give you an example from my own
Okay.
life about how I use this
Okay.
process. Um, so the first step is empathy. So you're just really like seeing things from their perspective. The second step is validation, validating their experience and their feelings, even if the misbehavior is something you don't like. And so that can be,
Mm.
oh, you're feeling really angry right now because you didn't get the truck at the store that you really wanted.
Mm.
Like really validating what their desire is, rather
Yeah.
than saying, no, Johnny, we can't get the truck today. No, and then having them throw a fit. So you're
Yeah.
really kind of shifting the dynamic between you. And
Mm.
so the third step, that's where the magic happens, and that is imagination. So it's empathy, validation, imagination. And
Okay.
imagination is really expanding that, whatever it is that they want, and thinking outside the box. And what if it is, a toy at the store that Johnny wants, rather than giving all the reasons why he can't have it, you can say, oh, I'm so curious to know if when we get home, if we can make our own truck that looks the same way. Or do you want to go home and paint a picture of the truck you saw? And
Mm.
maybe Santa can bring it to you, or you can ask for it for your birthday. So
Mm.
you're using your child's imagination and
Yeah.
creativity to see how you can meet their need to feel seen and heard,
Mm.
rather than just focusing on yes or no, we can or can't have the truck, and then your kid
Yeah.
throwing a fit. So might seem counterintuitive to a lot of parents, because sometimes I think we think, if I give in to this a little bit, they're going to want it even more. But what I
Yes.
found, and what the parents that I work with have found, is that the more you give into it, their desire, it's like that desire just needs to be honored. And when that
Yeah.
desire is honored, they don't necessarily need it in real life. Does that make
They're
sense?
being, yeah, because it's not about the truck itself. It's
Right.
you're getting at the deeper need. You're helping
Yes.
them feel seen, validated, heard.
Yes. Very much so. And so that process, it's been years of trying to navigate and figure out, how to create like a formula like this to help. And the way that this formula was developed was, my husband and I years ago we were going through dialectal behavior therapy to help one of our kids with emotional regulation and social interaction dynamics. And
Mm.
we were working with this therapist, and the therapist kept saying, like, when your child is, really not regulated and really have an emotional outburst, do not, absolutely under any circumstances, do not rationalize with them and try to tell them why they can or can't have something. And the
Mm.
suggestion was offer empathy and validation for their experience, then
Ah.
later come and problem solve. So we started doing that with my stepdaughter, at the time, and her outbursts diminished and diffused pretty quickly
Wow.
when we started implementing that. And then so one day, and then I added in the imagination piece, empathy, validation, imagination. So one day I was at McDonald's. This is pre-COVID. I was at McDonald's with my two little boys, who are 4 and 7. Sorry, 4 and 2 at the time. My
Okay.
4-year-old had climbed all the way to the top of the playscape, and he was hanging out up there. And I'm like, I have a 2-year-old on my hip. I'm like,
Oh
okay, we
my
have to get
gosh.
going, have to get home for, nap time and whatever.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't come down.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, do I really want to embarrass myself and yell, or bribe him with candy, or,
Yeah.
threaten him? Like, if you don't come down now, there's no screen time later, whatever it is. I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of those. But then I thought, okay, I'm just going to play with this and just be playful, and,
Mm.
implement this little strategy that I had learned and kind of came up with.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my gosh, his name is Mateo. I said, oh my gosh, Mateo, you've made it all the way to the top of this awesome playscape. How cool would it be? And then I just jumped into imagination. How cool would it be if there was like a slime slide over here? And what if there's a rock wall that you could climb up and then jump off? And he was like, oh, that's so cool. And he was like getting all like into it.
Yeah.
And I just kept validating, you're having so much fun. You don't want to leave this place. I wouldn't want to leave either if I was hanging out in a cool place.
Hmm.
And at no point did I say, you have to come down now. We have to leave. Da, 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 da. I was just really feeding into his creativity and playfulness in a really fun way. And I
Hmm.
took the space he was in and I completely expanded it in his imagination. So before
Wow.
I knew it, he climbed down on his own and he's sitting in front of me while I'm putting his shoes and socks on his feet. And I'm like, I just kept going. I was like, okay, what if there was like water coming out over here? And, I just completely embellished this
Yeah, how
playscape
much fun.
and he loved it. He was like, oh my gosh, this is so
Wow.
much fun. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And then before I know it, I have, my baby on my hip and I'm holding his hand to the car and we're getting in the car and he's like, hey, mama, when we get home, can I have some popcorn and can we watch a movie? And I'm like, sure. And as I'm like getting them in the car, I'm like, what just happened? That was amazing.
You
That
totally
was amazing.
transformed that experience.
Totally. Because I did at no point did I tap into force or bribery or
Wow.
threats. And so much of the time, that's all we know as parents.
Yes, those are the only tools,
That's it.
but you're offering different tools. There's a different
Totally different
approach.
tools. And it's a completely different way to engage your child. And
Yeah.
so, I've used it multiple times. I mean, another example, one night we were eating dinner. We were getting ready to eat dinner, and he was, same son, playing with his Legos on the floor next to the table.
Hmm.
And I was like, I really wanted him. It's important to me that we sit as a family and eat dinner together. And he refused to come to the table. He's like, nope, I'm playing with my Legos. This is all I want to do. I don't
Hmm.
want to cooperate with you, basically.
Hmm.
So I got down on the floor with him and I was like, okay, buddy, like, let's problem solve this together. And so after, going through this process of validating his experience, saying, oh my gosh, you really want to play with these Legos, and we also have to eat dinner. How can we do both maybe at the same time? So what we decided is that I was okay with him sitting on the floor playing with Legos with his plate of food. He kind of had like his own little picnic next
Nice.
to him, as long as we were interacting as a family. Because to me, that was the
Yeah.
most important thing, is like, let's still
Hmm.
have family conversations. Let's still talk about our
Yeah.
days. Um, and sometimes we all get down on the floor and we eat on the floor together, just
Cool.
because it's like, why not? Like, let's
Yeah.
think outside the box. Why not do something like that?
How fun.
Um, so again, it's not about winning or losing or like, making all of
Yeah.
these rigid rules. It's like, how can we as parents honor what our kids are needing and wanting at the same time as setting boundaries? And what does that look
Hmm.
like?
Oh my
So yeah.
goodness. I absolutely love it. So why is this important? Like, why should we bring playfulness into reparenting and parenting our children?
Stress is a big part of it. I mean, what parent out there is not stressed and overwhelmed with all that
Totally.
we have to do? And we're pulled in a million directions. Then we have like social media, then we have family gatherings, we have after school activities and, dinner and grocery shopping and I mean, there's like the list goes on. And
Yeah.
when we can tap into our own playfulness, it relieves so much stress. It's
Mm.
like this burden is lifted because we learn a different language. We learn the language that children speak to us on a regular basis, and we oftentimes don't understand it. And so I feel
Mm.
like some of what I do is I interpret that for parents and help them learn the language that their child speaks so that they can actually get a lot better results and be more effective as parents.
Ah.
I had a parent. So for example, I had a parent I was working with a few months back, and she had two little girls. I think they were 5 and 7, and she was trying to get them ready for school. And she's getting stressed out because it's getting late. They're going to be late for school. But rather than yelling at her girls and being like, "Okay, come on, get out the door," she pretended like she was fishing for them because they were running around the house, running away from her. And she's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna, pretend like I'm fishing for you." and pretended like they were fish and kind of picked them up, and they were running around her bed or something like that in her bedroom, and she picked them up and threw them on the bed and was like, oh, I caught a fish, how fun. Okay, can that fish put on their shoes? I don't know if that fish can put on their shoes. Do fish wear shoes? And she just got
Mm.
really playful
Oh,
with it rather than
yeah.
getting into this rigid, strict,
Yeah,
you
like
know, it
a
has to look this way,
yeah.
which just invites power struggles. And her girls loved it, and they weren't late for school. So it's like,
Amazing.
even in those moments when, you know, our blood might be boiling or we're getting
Yeah.
stressed out, it's like
Yeah.
if you can just tap into that little sliver of just playfulness for yourself. And this
Yeah.
honestly has made my parenting journey in life so much easier. This is kind of the easy button for
Oh,
parents. And I think a lot of times parents think, oh, I have to get super creative and I have to like think of all of these things. And it's like, no, you don't. You just have to think outside the box. That's all.
it just seems so beautiful because you're also creating moments of connection
Yeah.
and you're taking a situation that could be full of so much stress and anxiety, and your child could feed off of that, but you're turning it into connection and joy. What else do you see as the benefits of playful parenting?
I think it allows our children to really be seen and heard for who they are, you
Mm,
know, because I think a lot of the time we just expect them to be mini adults and to think like us and to
mhm,
be like us and to be kind of mini me's.
mhm,
And that's just not, that's projection a lot of the time, you know, and I think
mhm.
a lot of the time parents, we don't know we're projecting onto
Yeah.
our kids, but that's what I see a lot of the time happen, especially like if a parent didn't have a specific experience as a child, maybe their family struggled financially, they might go to the other extreme when they have kids and make sure that every birthday party is amazing and that their kids, all of their needs are met and they have the best backpacks or the best whatever.
Mhm,
That doesn't necessarily mean that child feels seen and heard. And
mm.
so when we're playful and when we just give ourselves space and grace to just like be a hot mess if we're a hot mess and just accept that, it is such a gift to our kids. Because our children, like I said before, like that is the language they speak. And so if we
Mhm,
can speak a similar language, we can connect with our kids on such a deeper level. And then our kids, when a child feels seen and heard by their parent,
mhm.
that child is going to interact with that parent in a completely different way. They're going
Mm,
to be a lot more likely to come to that parent when their feelings are hurt, when they've done something wrong, because
mm.
they're going to know their parent has their back even when they do something wrong, and they're not going to be shamed or belittled or judged.
Yeah.
It's a safe space. And I think safety, creating emotional safety for those of us who grew up in dysfunction, it's
Yeah.
not something a lot of us know what it
Yeah.
is. And playfulness can create emotional safety
Mm.
within a relationship. And you know, I have two stepdaughters who are teenage girls, and let me just tell you, teen girls can get some attitude sometimes. And I mean, there have been times when they'll flip an attitude, you know, flip a, you know, just be like, "Meh, meh, 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 meh." And it's can be so triggering because it's like, I'm the parent and you got to listen to me. And
Mm.
but what my husband and I have learned to do is just kind of flip it back in a playful way, not in a sarcastic way, because that just can amplify. But like,
Okay.
you
Thank
know,
you for saying
if
that.
yes, it's not in a sarcastic way, and you're not don't back talk the back talk, right? Like if your kid is giving you back talk, don't, you know, do the same thing back. Not at all what I'm saying. So it's playful. It's like, oh, okay, well, thank you so much for sharing. Or just being, if you can, just be a little bit more playful in your response and
Yeah.
don't take it personally because it's
Ooh,
not personal.
it's
And
not
so,
personal. Yeah. That's a good thing to remember. How has that
yeah.
changed your relationship, if I can ask, with your stepdaughters?
Oh, I
This
mean,
approach?
it's completely different, completely different. I think they trust me a lot more because, like
Mm,
I said, I was extremely strict when they were young. I was extremely rigid and just, I did not give any room for having a bad day or being cranky or just being kind of like Oscar the Grouch, you know, and those are the
Mm,
kinds of language, like that's the language that we can be using with kids. It's like, oh, I'm feeling like Oscar the Grouch today. I might be a little off, and that's okay. And teaching your kids that language can be really helpful because that's just a really healthy way of communicating, of being like, I'm cranky, you
yeah.
know, and you might want to stay out of my way. Or I might be
Yeah.
short-tempered, you
Yeah.
know, it's not personal. But my relationship with my stepdaughters, it's a lot more easygoing and a
Wow.
lot more casual. Like it feels easy. Like it just feels like we're having a conversation. And they still push my buttons sometimes, and they'll still kind of roll
Sure.
their eyes and give me attitude sometimes.
Mhm.
But I've learned to not take it personally. And I've learned to yeah, just use playfulness. And even with teenagers, a lot of the time, like whatever they might be projecting with their attitude or whatever, I mean, I would say probably 90% of the time has nothing to do with us. It has to do with something they're
Mm,
struggling with internally that
mhm,
they're just projecting because
mm,
we're a safe place to do that. You know, and so yeah, so
yeah.
just keeping that in mind, that like playfulness can go a long way. It can bridge gaps. And it just, and as far as like healing, you know, I use it with my inner children and just in
How do you do
tapping
that?
into like asking my inner children when I'm really struggling, asking, you know, what would fill your bucket today?
Mm,
And then doing that thing. And a lot of the time I think when we've been so disregarded in our own childhoods, like I think a lot of the time we don't know how to validate our own experience because
mhm.
we're so used to being disregarded. So it's just a really healthy way, like being playful and being like, hey, I have different names for my inner children. One of my inner child's names is Sparkle.
Mm,
And she loves to be outside. She likes to swing on swings and
mm,
but just like asking like, you know, what can I do today? Is it coloring? Is it going
yeah.
for a walk? Is it going and getting a bowl of ice cream?
Hmm. You're
Um,
really attuning to your needs, which is probably something if you grew up in a dysfunctional family household, you didn't receive. So you're listening to that and honoring that.
yeah, and it's powerful when we do that. And it doesn't have to be like a day at Disneyland. You know, it can literally be I want to snuggle with my dog or cat,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, but making sure that we're listening and that we're like attuning ourselves to our inner children to let them know, like, hey, I got you. You didn't have that need met when you were a child. So now I'm going to meet
Oh,
that need for you. And I
oh,
mean, it's the same thing that we're doing with our kids and just making sure that
beautiful.
we are in tune with
Yeah.
our higher selves. And I think playfulness is a huge part of that.
Oh my gosh, Evelyn, I love this. Is there anything else as we begin to end that you wanted to share with our listeners about anything that we've talked about today?
Yes, I want to share my props.
Please do. Yes.
So, one of the things that I, again, help parents kind of figure out is like, how do we, on a practical level, think outside the box when we need our kids to do certain things? So, for years, my stepdaughter, Olivia, hated bathing. Like, it was the worst thing in the world. She hated showering, taking baths. It was just like, it was
Mm,
a fight every single time
yeah.
until we incorporated shaving cream.
Tell
So
me
for
more.
any parents out there who their kid for whatever reason, you know, a lot of sensory sensitive kids don't like
Yeah.
water going in their ears or the sound of the shower or the water running is too loud. And so for situations like that, you know, you can maybe have the bath be going and then after it's done filling up have them come in, but using shaving cream, and I just got this at the dollar store, but you
So
know, to give
creative.
them something to play with while you're bathing them or while they're bathing, and
Yeah.
they can, you know, like, and there's a lot of different things that is available now with different kinds of like soaps and paints and stuff for the bathtub, but it's messy and it's hard to clean up. This just washes down the drain. So but I
Amazing.
love it. I mean, like so much of the time, like, you know, she would push back, push back, push back. And then I'd be like, how about some shaving cream? And she's like, okay, yeah. Let's do it. And she would make all of these like, sculptures on the side of the bathtub and then she would draw into them and
Such a
they
great
kept her busy for a
idea.
long time. So that's just
Yeah.
one hack. I use Play-Doh a lot too. So I mean with Play-Doh you can create any kind of sculpture, anything. And
Yeah.
I teach parents like if your child again like sees something at the store they really want or whatever, go home and use Play-Doh to make it, or use
Mm,
construction paper to make it.
so good.
Another hack, who was I for? I was Princess Peach last week at a Halloween party.
Oh, how fun.
But I wanted to like if your kids have any dress up clothes or anything like that, like put on a hat, put on a funny nose, put on a mask. And then most of us know what a wooden spoon is because maybe we got spanked as kids, but you
Mm,
can use it now and repurpose it as a magic wand
I love
and
it.
be silly and be like, okay, I'm going to make you into a frog. And now you have to hop to the door and then to the car so we can go to school. I mean, like, really just being really silly with it.
Yeah.
Um, and then pipe cleaners, you can use these. I used these once to make a little guy riding a bicycle because my son wanted to ride his bike, but for some reason, the bike wasn't available. And he was really upset about it. So I was like, let's
Mm.
let's make a little man riding a bicycle, and that's you riding your bike. Um, and he loved
That's
it. And
cute.
then another time my son wanted s'mores, but we didn't have all of the ingredients. And so we
Mm.
made little graham crackers out of paper and then a
That's
big
cute.
marshmallow and then chocolate. And so we made our own little
Ah,
s'mores. So those are
such a good
just kind of some
idea.
ideas of ways in
Yeah.
which we can really just think outside the box and add some playfulness to our everyday lives.
So much fun. I could see how it totally changes the mood, the emotions, the relationship, the
Hmm.
opportunities to connect. It just is such a paradigm shift. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Evelyn. This was such a valuable conversation.
Good. Thank you so much for having me on, Taylor. I love this.
I love it too. Tell us a little bit about the freebies that you're offering.
Oh, yes. My freebie I have is a video. It's a short 15 to 20-minute video and a PDF printout that is all about how to break the cycle of dysfunctional parenting in 3 steps. So I break it down to 3 steps. I also have for the VIP offer, I have Rockstar Parenting Skills. So what I've
Cool.
done is basically collected all of the awesome parenting skills that I've been teaching for years and the ones that have really transformed my parenting, and I consolidated it into this little package, this little bundle kit.
Woo.
And in there, parents are going to absolutely learn how to transform negative behavior, how to meet their child's needs, what to say to engage cooperation, and how to add some playfulness to their parenting. So,
I love it. Evelyn, thank you so much again for being here.
yeah, thank you so much for having me, Taylor.
And thank you to everyone watching. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the summit.